A little bit again. I mean, to win that event as a team, just what does that mean? What does it demonstrate where you guys are at as you're progressing?
You know, in my mind, that tournament's for us definitely the toughest tournament outside the NCAAs. So it's a good measuring stick, really. I thought we competed really, really well in some areas, of course, and then in a handful of those other spots, maybe not so well that we thought we may do a little better. But all in all, obviously had a great tournament and ended up winning the team championship. So can't really complain a whole lot.
Talk about the team's response after, the Cyhawk, and then to turn around and then do that in one of the toughest in-season tournaments there.
You know, especially when you have a young team, I guess that was the big question, right? How are they going to respond? I obviously responded really, really well. Took it as kind of maybe a kick in the butt a little bit. But obviously you've seen some individuals respond maybe a little bit better than others. And always continuing to improve in those areas. But, you know, when you're young, you got nothing to do but learn from it. So.
And to jump from that to the collegiate duels and good competition there, just how good is the schedule shaping up in terms of molding this team toward being one of those top teams in March?
You know, last year we had a heck of a schedule. You know, it's kind of designed by that way, and this year it's kind of turned out to be the same thing, right? You know, going into this weekend, we'll have red hot Pitt right out of the chute. They just got done knocking off Ohio State, and then we'll have Little Rock, who I know will be ready to go to wrestle us, and then you have Cornell, who's, you know, a top team in the country. So again, another good measuring stick before Christmas here. So.
Speaking of the holiday, in general, I know right now these guys have got finals going and everything else.
Yeah.
You're going into this a tough thing on Monday. How do you balance just keeping guys, making sure they're doing what they got to do, but also, you know, staying fit,
This week, finals week's always a hard one because you always have a handful of guys, you know, need to do really, really well academically, finish up strong. So it's hard to, and especially with tests and exams, always seem like they land during our common practice time. So this week's kind of an odd week. It's kind of more of a common time for the whole team. If you can make that 4 o'clock workout, you're supposed to be here, right? But obviously you kind of got to cater and be a little more flexible. So we'll have some individual stuff going in the mornings with a handful of guys. So it's not your typical week. So going into this weekend, it's not a typical routine, but regardless, you got to still be ready to compete. And we'll obviously have some structured workouts before we go together too, which is good. So.
Last season, we talked a lot about how this team was very together and, you know, we're all very focused on trying to win. How have you seen this team this season really come together with so many new faces and younger guys?
You know, I'm convinced that the tougher and deeper team you have, when you got to compete every single day against those tough guys, you have no choice, especially when you're on the road and you're all around each other. You kind of learn to love each other a little bit, but I think that only brings you closer. And then, you have a situation like Anthony and Casey, who it's actually turned out to be a really great thing. It's kind of go back to like a Marcus Coleman and younger situation. I don't know, those guys ended up being really great training partners and really great friends, and that's kind of how it's shaping up to be with like Anthony and Casey also. Just had them in here the other morning working together, helping each other really well, and we'll see what that kind of shows the rest of the team and what you can do and even know your competitors and how to bring you together.
Has that bond kind of just organically happen, or was there any, coaching involved, or how did that work out?
Honestly, no. It's kind of Anthony more or less took the reins on that. Took it upon himself to decide that, our strongest team is having him go down, which he was certified for 41, obviously, and took that step, and it's kind of leading by example a little bit. And obviously he had our blessing with it. That was an easy choice for us, but gives us the strongest team. But yeah,
Andy put out a stat, kind of mind-blowing stat. about Younger, 44 takedowns. He's been taken down once this year. To see that from a heavyweight, and you know what his skill set is, you know what he brings, and why he's a unique heavyweight. But just A, how mind blowing is that stat, and B, just how perfectly acclimated does he seem to be to wrestling at that class?
To go through the Cliff Keen and kind of wrestle how he did and compete how he did, I had to take a step back and go, whoa, I guess he does belong at heavyweight a little bit. But regardless of what weight class you are, to go get, what do you say, 44 takedowns and giving up one, I don't care. If you go through a tournament like that and you can put up those kind of stats, that's pretty impressive. I don't care what weight.
Younger said this back at media day, and it stuck with me a little bit. He said at the time, like when he was looking up and down the roster, he saw 6 or 7 guys that could go and be an All-American. When you have a performance like that at the Cliff Keen, is that something you see when you start to look up and down this roster now and be like, all right, like this could be that kind of year?
I think this is maybe crazy, but I think we have more than that, to be completely honest. But, like I said, that's a great measuring stick for us. I mean, when you got 15 of the top 20 teams there, I mean, holy smokes, that if you don't believe it before then and you go place in that tournament, you better believe it afterwards. So obviously a lot can change between now and March, and I think it will, for especially those weight classes that maybe didn't get what they wanted there, the Chittum's of the world, the Turkinas. They're only going to get better. Turkina's been around a little bit, but still hasn't been consistently in the lineup and hasn't had a good tournament test or very many tournament tests. So tournament's much different than a duel is. So obviously, and then the guys that did do well just continue to develop and stay healthy and end the year on a high note there.
I mean, Evan Frost being a redshirt freshman, and then I think it was second, if I remember it correctly.
Yep.
What does it say about someone like him to be able to just step up as a young guy and just be able to do that?
Well, I think that it shows just kind of what kind of work those Frost boys put in. Obviously, we didn't really know where they would land, but knew what they were capable of, and all the off-season hard work with Ranieri and whatnot has started to show through, and the sky's the limit for a guy like that. Obviously, he's kind of started to prove it a little bit here, and we'll have several good tests this weekend and throughout the rest of the year too. So we'll know a lot more here in the next month or so.
When you look at a guy like Tarakino, what do you think it's going to take for him to really just kind of let it out and really, just let it go on the mat?
I think a lot for him will be just reps, getting more of a tournament feel. Maybe we'll have to take him to some open tournaments where you get to feel those back-to-back matches, where you only get to sit down for hour. But like I said, it's much different than a duel where you just got to get up for one match. If you get kind of kicked in the mouth a little bit, you got to go figure it out, in an hour or so, or the next session, and you got to turn things around in less than a half a day, especially at those big tournaments. So, like I said, I think reps is the key for him, and then just continuing doing what he's doing. He's been doing a great job outside of the room and with his weight that he hasn't really done in the past. So there's still a lot of upside for Kyson to come.